Last night at 2:15 a.m., an event shook the foundations of global espionage. Ukraine's intelligence services, in a coordinated cyber and counterintelligence operation, dismantled a massive Chinese spy network valued at over $1.3 billion. This network had been quietly supporting Russia's war machine. The revelation sent shockwaves through diplomatic and military circles, exposing the covert technological and intelligence backbone sustaining Moscow's war efforts since the invasion began. This was more than an intelligence coup. It was a decisive blow to the shadow alliance between Russia and China. Their strategic partnership was revealed to be deeply interdependent. Early reports indicate the network operated under the guise of civilian infrastructure, such as research centers, logistics hubs, and data analysis firms, all masking their true purpose. Beneath this facade lay a digital web of surveillance equipment, data intercept nodes, and communications relays funneling real-time battlefield intelligence to Russian command. The operation, Project Veilbreak, was led by Ukraine's security service, with Western intelligence coordination. It was the culmination of months of digital tracking, infiltration, and silent observation. When Ukrainian cyber units acted, dozens of key relay servers across Eastern Europe and Central Asia went dark simultaneously. Within minutes, Russia's battlefield data streams collapsed, especially those linked to Chinese satellite reconnaissance and encrypted communications. Intelligence analysts suggest the disruption immediately affected Russian drone and missile targeting systems on the Kharkiv and Zaporizhzhia fronts. Russian artillery units were left blind for hours. Their GPS-guided munitions reverted to manual input modes, a vulnerability Ukraine's forces quickly exploited. Preliminary battle reports from Ukrainian defense units indicate a 37% drop in Russian precision strike efficiency overnight. The scale of the discovery was staggering. The Chinese spy network had been embedding itself in Russia's physical and digital war infrastructure since 2023, through covert satellite data sharings, microchip transfers, and encrypted communication systems. China had become Russia's unseen eye in the sky. The $1.3 billion valuation represents the full scope of hardware, software, and intelligence assets involved. The network's layered design made it particularly sophisticated. On the surface, Chinese tech companies posed as suppliers of dual-use commercial technologies like high-resolution imaging drones, weather satellites, and industrial servers. However, Ukrainian investigators found coded protocols in their firmware linking directly to Russian military-grade systems. Essentially, Chinese satellite imagery and signal intelligence were piped straight to Russian military decision centers in real time, disguised as ordinary data transfers. This revelation has major geopolitical implications. For years, China denied direct military support to Russia, claiming it only provided non-lethal assistance or civilian technology. The evidence uncovered by Ukraine, however, paints a picture of systemic, covert collaboration. This blurs the line between partnership and complicity. Ukrainian cybersecurity experts long suspected this network's existence, but proof required an intricate operation. The turning point was the capture of a compromised data server in the Luhansk region earlier this month. This discovery opened a digital trail through Moscow, Beijing, and intermediary shell corporations in Singapore, Kazakhstan, and Belarus. Over 40 corporate fronts were found to be laundering operational expenses for these intelligence transfers. As Ukraine's analysts dug deeper, the picture cleared. A spiderweb connecting Chinese AI systems, Russian military outposts, and satellite uplinks. At its core were data relays using quantum encryption, a technology Beijing has been developing to ensure untraceable communications between Russian and Chinese handlers. Ukraine's success in breaching this supposedly impenetrable system demonstrates Kyiv's advanced cyber capabilities. By 4 a.m., Ukrainian intelligence officials released an encrypted statement confirming the network's dismantling. It read, "The enemy's shadow has been erased. Every eye turned against Ukraine has been blinded." While details remain classified, insiders at Ukraine's Ministry of Digital Transformation suggest this is the single largest counterintelligence success of the war. The international fallout was immediate. The US State Department and European Union Security Councils convened emergency sessions. If verified, the findings could trigger sanctions against Chinese tech conglomerates complicit in aiding Russia's military. Beijing issued a formal statement calling the reports baseless and politically motivated, emphasizing its neutrality. Global analysts, however, note the speed and tone of China's response suggest unease, indicating the findings hit a sensitive nerve. The operation's timing has strategic weight. Russia had been intensifying its winter campaign preparations, hoping to regain momentum. By targeting the intelligence infrastructure that gave Russia its edge, Ukraine undercut one of Moscow's critical lifelines. Analysts argue this could mark a turning point in the information war, shifting from defensive cybersecurity to proactive digital warfare, with Ukraine now holding the upper hand. Beyond tactical gains, this reveals the evolution of Ukraine's intelligence apparatus. In 2 years, Ukraine has transformed from a nation with limited digital defense to one capable of global-scale cyber operations rivaling NATO's elite units. This operation showcases that change and sends a powerful message to Russia, China, and the world. Ukraine's resilience extends far beyond the battlefield. This morning, reports emerged that suspected Chinese intelligence assets were apprehended in multiple European countries. These arrests are believed to be connected to the network Ukraine dismantled. If confirmed, this means Ukraine's operation was not just digital, it triggered a coordinated multinational crackdown on the ground, involving intelligence agencies from at least 6 allied nations. It remains unclear how much of China's espionage infrastructure was exposed. Intelligence sources suggest that while the core network was neutralized, auxiliary systems might still be active, rerouting data through channels in Central Asia or the Middle East. This means Ukraine has delivered a severe blow, but the broader shadow war is far from over. Still, last night's events highlight an undeniable truth. Russia's reliance on China's covert intelligence systems is its greatest vulnerability. By exposing and dismantling this network, Ukraine disrupted an entire framework of dependence that Moscow cannot easily rebuild. The morning after Ukraine's triumph, the world awoke to a geopolitical tremor. In Moscow, the reaction was one of stunned silence. Kremlin officials issued no immediate statement, and Russian state media briefly mentioned a temporary data interruption before removing the report. Behind the scenes, sources suggest Russian command centers were thrown into disarray, unable to access the encrypted intelligence feeds that had become integral to their operations. This disruption strikes at the heart of Russia's modern strategy, which had grown heavily dependent on Chinese surveillance satellites and AI targeting programs. Without this lifeline, reports from Ukraine's front lines indicate that Russian drone strikes have become increasingly erratic. Missile accuracy has plummeted, and communication between battalions is breaking down. Russian propaganda networks, once boasting of unbreakable technological cooperation with China, have gone silent. Russia's intelligence apparatus is now scrambling to re-establish lost connections, attempting to rebuild data-sharing capacity using less advanced systems from Iran and North Korea. However, these substitutes lack the precision and reliability of the Chinese platforms. For the first time since the full-scale invasion, Russia's digital warfare capacity appears to have regressed. Analysts predict Russia's intelligence latency could now increase by 40% or more, a gap that can be devastating. In Beijing, the reaction was far more controlled but equally revealing. The Chinese Foreign Ministry held a press conference labeling Ukraine's claims fabricated, accusing Kyiv of trying to sabotage peaceful cooperation. Yet analysts noted that several Chinese state-linked tech firms, such as Sky Vision Systems and Zhonghua Data Tech, abruptly restricted access to their global servers. This duality, a public denial paired with a quiet digital retreat, suggests a recognition that the operation struck something vital. For China, the exposure of its covert support carries risks far beyond the Ukrainian front lines. It threatens Beijing's global reputation as a neutral actor and undermines its carefully maintained diplomatic balance. Internally, intelligence leaks suggest high-ranking officials from the Ministry of State Security are under scrutiny for operational failures. Economically, the exposure could cost its tech sector billions, as nations in Africa and South America reassess agreements, now viewing Chinese technology as a potential espionage risk. The United States and NATO responded swiftly. Emergency consultations were held, and a joint statement from NATO's Intelligence Directorate praised Ukraine's decisive and highly coordinated action against state-enabled espionage operations. The dismantled network highlights how deeply intertwined China and Russia had become through shared digital warfare infrastructure. This exposure has undermined trust in Chinese technology globally. The European Union has initiated a sweeping review of technology supply chains, while Poland, Lithuania, and Estonia announced reviews of Chinese tech investments. In Washington, the US Congress is already drafting proposals to expand cooperation with Ukraine on cybersecurity. The White House described the operation as a defining moment in the modern intelligence age. For NATO, the event has accelerated discussions about formalizing Ukraine's role in its cyber defense framework, potentially integrating Ukrainian cyber units into joint exercises to leverage their unparalleled expertise. For Ukraine, this global response represents a major strategic and narrative victory. Inside the country, morale surged, with citizens flooding social media with messages of pride. For a nation that has endured years of cyber attacks, this operation was symbolic. In an address, President Volodymyr Zelensky praised Ukraine's cyber forces for protecting the truth, emphasizing the operation was an act of defense, not aggression. Yet even as Ukraine celebrated, its leaders remained cautious. Oleksiy Danilov, Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, warned that the victory was only one battle in a war fought in silence. This event underscores a fundamental shift in modern conflict. Power now depends as much on digital dominance as on physical might. Historians may one day look back on this as a turning point, not just in the war, but in global power dynamics, proving that a smaller nation can expose and neutralize a superpower's covert operations. In an era of hybrid warfare, Ukraine has established itself as a sentinel for intelligence integrity.